Because Earth's structure is layers of diamond, the energy generated at the core is conducted to the rest of the structure without any need for wiring or primitive electrical systems. An infinite energy source flows from the core as the source energy generator all the way to a central point in the bridge where energy is distributed as electrical power globally via the electromagnetic force field encompassing Earth, which is generated by the core. So power can be wirelessly harnessed by infinite inputs and outputs from all the different layers of the planet's atmosphere, across all the surface, including the ground level surface known as the biosphere. This is why the layers of Earth's atmosphere are highly charged with endless electricity. The reason is because the atmosphere is the energy release point of the core into the surface systems. And given that the vessel is spherical, the energy is distributed symmetrically across its entire surface, which is what creates all the necessary conditions for electromagnetic charges required to bind and synthesize elements such as hydrogen and oxygen by the way of sunlight from the sun, which fuses these two elements chemically by isotopic charges and form water that falls into the surface, forming water bodies as the foundation of the biosphere. So you see, and then there's a visual representation of this. So as you can see, this is all design. But I'd like to explain how he said that we have an infinite energy, because remember, we need the core that is infinitely just never stopping, just constantly generating this infinite energy, right? So, but what are we going to do with all this infinite energy apart from creating universe and things? Well, we need to power this vessel that essentially has the capacity to have these incredible mechanisms. And not only that, is all the things that the vessel can do, which I will be talking about soon. So, because it's diamond, and diamond is a superconductor, think of this sphere, right? The coils, the generator, the engine, the singular fusion generator at the core of the planet, right? Representing 10 mass of the total weight, right? 10% of the mass is 10% of the total weight of the planet, the spaceship that we created. But then, what about all the levers and floors and the structures that I was talking about, which are built with diamond? Well, because it's a superconductor, remember, it's spheres within spheres. So because of the Casimir effect, the core itself has been radiated. So it has this space vacuum, this layer, right? Which it levitates on its own around this bigger sphere. And that bigger sphere itself is the foundation, the first floor where humans access. You know, and that floor itself is like a floor that is a sphere that has the core inside of it. And the Casimir effect transmits the energy from the core to that floor. And because that floor has columns and beams and is a foundation, it's connected to all the floors and levels to the surface. So because of that connection, there's no need for wires or any of this. So the energy moves from the core straight into the entire planet, the structure, symmetrically. It just moves spherically like this, whoop, and everything, the energy is distributed equally across all space and nodal points on the vessel. So there is no one point on the vessel that has more energy than the other. All points have the same amount of infinite energy distributed across it. And this is possible because of the shape of the design. So the energy moves, and it's not there's no noise. You don't have like a wing, 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 a crank wheel or a gear, because this is like monkey stuff, right? Primitive. It's just no noise. It's infinite energy generator that produces no noise. It's just infinite generation of energy. That's all it is. That's all it is. And this infinite generation of energy essentially is silent. And it just powers everything. It's just this pure, bright energy. It's infinitely bright, just like staring at the sun. When you look at the core, that you could, if you wanted to, from that. So because there is areas on that floor that there we have the systems to make it so the floor becomes transparent, so we can see the core from it, and we just see this bright infinite energy that is powering everything in silently. And it's infinite energy generator. And that moves through all the levels. And because the bridge is the central point, which is what we know as Antarctica, we have a release mechanism there, which is like, is the command and control of the planet, is the command bridge, and that is the main structure that where we command the spaceship planet. And from there we have this distribution system. Is resilient and is distributed. It's not a, there's no central point of failure, but by the design of it, because that's the point of command and control, we have it as a point of release. Just like the pyramid has a point of release to create a universe, we have the bridge as well as a point of distribution of energy for all the systems, for electrogravitics and telemetry of the planet at all levels. And because that's the way it operates, then from the bridge, that energy is distributed to the surface itself to do all the other things. So it's like, you know, it's like the gate in a way. It's like the access to the surface from like this infinite energy release point that comes from the core everywhere. But the bridge is like a point where we have all sorts of technologies and civilization that operate that, because it's like where it's like a vessel has a cockpit, right? So it's the same. This is the command and control. This is the bridge. And from there, it generates, because it's core energy that moves spherically like this into the planet, then that generates an electromagnetic force field, which is what we call the electromagnetic field of planet Earth, which is generated by our core. And that generates the conditions for the atmosphere that is all energy, technology that we created ourselves. You see, that's how it works. And then you have the layers of it, and it's the distribution of the energy, and the bridge is the mechanism that regulates that. So the systems are in what we call synergy or homeostasis with biology, which is us, right? What we call the ecosystems and all that, the self-regulation systems of planet Earth that we call nature, Mother Earth, well, it's human technology, and it's regulated by all the mechanisms underground that are connected with the bridge. And the bridge essentially is the brains of the operation in a way. Distributed and decentralized and resilient, so it's no singular point of failure, but is the point that essentially is as part of the design where we command everything and we access things. If we wanted to manually do it, because we distribute it so we can access it without it. But this is another video. So you see, this is the video, so you understand that everything, for example, the surface was that it was created the planet, but then we needed the water in the surface. But the water comes from the sun because it's oxygen and hydrogen, and these are elements, right? And then because of the atmosphere and the conditions that we created, then we synthesize those with our own self-regulation technologies to precipitate those onto the atmosphere as water, and we have surfaces of oceans, which is this water is a requirement for biological life and organic life, right? Which is our life form. So we needed that water, but that was what we added at the end. It's like, you know, the house is built now, we need to bring the water, right? And the water comes from the sun itself, and we synthesize it on the surface of the planet with our own layers of technology that can take all these elements and bind them isotopically, and they precipitate as water. And it's not only because the sun creates everything, so it's not only hydrogen and oxygen, it's all the elements, right? Because the sun creates all the elements. So it's everything. So then we synthesize that, and it goes onto the surface like that. And then we create these beautiful biosphere terrains and landscapes and lands and everything that we have created as a planet on the surface, which is what we call the biosphere. And more about it in the next video.